All right, we are up and live on Facebook. Anybody in the chat room, say hey so we know that you're there. Let's see. We always give this a few minutes, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure everything gets populated out. Now we're up on Twitch. Hello on Facebook. Hello. Happy Friday, everyone. We'll give this a minute or two for people to populate in. Hello, Neil. Welcome to Monster of the Week. Strange movie, so old and so... Hello, Tyler. And a little bit forgotten, other than... Hello, Dennis. That usually these old monster movies, you can find dozens of gifs of the monster doing its thing. And this one, this is it. This is the one Winged Devourer gif that is out there. See, you get to watch it again. Looks like he's holding down a rhythm. He's about to throw down some beat poetry about how difficult it is to do beat poetry without a mouth. John Reeves, what's up? We got a good one for you today, John. A lot of blood and guts. We're actually going to try and play a YouTube clip today, you guys. We'll see if we can do that without getting the live stream taken away from us, but we'll give it a shot. I got some tricks up my sleeve. All right, a few more. Yeah, people are starting to filter in now. Hello, everybody. Well, welcome to the show. Happy Friday. We're about to go live with Yuri Lowenthal, who's going to be super fun. I can just tell he's going to be a good guest. Richard, hello. Dennis, you saw this in the theater when it came out. I think I may have seen it in the theater too. If not, I saw it definitely on HBO or on VHS, probably both, and probably dozens of times. Definitely was a very, very enduring classic. All right, everybody, here we go. Let's go back to Maine. Hello, everyone, and happy Friday, happy Turkey Day. I hope you guys had a chance to spend a little bit of time with friends, family, loved ones, either in person or, over the internets, whatever it works, because it is Thanksgiving, and that means I give thanks for a little bit of scotch here to mark the end of my writing week. We are going to have a grand time today talking about a relatively obscure but also very unique monster, the kind of which we haven't seen in a long, long time. As always on Monster of the Week, we pimp books and other stuff. We have other stuff to pimp today. My guest, Yuri Lowenthal, is an actor, voiceover talent, huge pedigree of success, which we will get into. We're going to cover that in a moment when I introduce him, but what we're pimping for him right now is his show, Orbital Redux, which is now part of Dust TV. He's going to tell us all about that, what the show is about, how you can watch it, all of that good stuff. And of course, I pimp something of my own every week as well. And we're going to be talking about weird-looking monsters with voracious appetites that eat people. The main book of mine you have to look for is Nocturnal. If you're not familiar with my work and you like Beastmaster, Nocturnal is absolutely the book for you. Let me go over our upcoming guests as we get into the end of Season 1 of Monster of the Week. On 12/3, author Mallory O'Meara, Creature from the Black Lagoon is her monster. We're going to be talking to her. That is her in the upper right-hand corner. She is a awesome person. We're also going to talk about her new book, Girly Drinks, and she'll tell you all about that. And she wrote the book on the Creature from the Black Lagoon. So she's an accomplished author. On December 10th, scientist Dr. Kiki Sanford, the originator of This Week in Science podcast, which is still running after 16 or 17 years. She's going to talk about one of my favorite monsters, Brundlefly. And then on December 17th, we finish up Season 1 of Monster of the Week with author J.D. Netto in our extra special, caring, all the feels Christmas episode where we're going to be talking about Krampus, which of course is a very wonderful movie of sharing and things. Go back to Maine. I got it all screwed up. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me walk you through our guest. Let me get him to unmute in the green room right now. Yuri Lowenthal is an actor, writer, producer, known primarily for his voice work in video games and animation. You may know him as your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man from the hit PlayStation game Marvel Spider-Man. You may know him as the voice of the Prince of Persia. You may know him as Ben Tennyson in Ben 10, or Genosuke in Afro Samurai, or Alucard in Castlevania. It's kind of insane. Let me get rid of these. Let's go to the guest. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, Mr. Yuri Lowenthal. Yuri, welcome to the show.
Oh, hi. Hi, guys. Sorry, that was totally posed, but this is the best book for this
What is
show.
that book? What is that book?
This is John Landis did a book called Monsters in the Movies, and it is just a delightful cornucopia of monsters from popular cinema.
Oh, sweet, sweet.
It's great. It's great. It's worth its weight in what do you call that?
I tell you what, my wife might be watching the show
things.
right now. I'm saying that's a good Christmas present right there. I'm just going to throw this out there. Throw this out there for everybody.
I don't get money when he sells those books, but it is a delicious book.
We're going to talk about the Winged Devourers in a second, but first of all, tell us about Orbital Redux.
Yes, I will. Orbital Redux is a sci-fi show that we originally did a couple of years ago. As part of Legendary Films or Legendary Digital, they had a platform, sort of their streaming platform, their Twitch platform that they were trying to go big with, and they were looking for shows that would really benefit from a live and an interactive component. And we pitched them a live sci-fi show that was a live, sci-fi drama weekly that we would perform start to finish live. And that means no cuts, no anything, no retakes it's sort of like performed like a play, but also the visual effects are also done live. All the practical effects, everything on the ship, anything blinking or exploding in my face was literally happening during the performance. All of the Foley was happening at that moment. The score was performed by a band live on the stage while we were performing. And if that wasn't, enough of a tightrope walk, we said, okay, for people in the chat, they can occasionally guide the story. We had to prepare branching storylines that we would need to sort of swap on at a moment's notice. I've never done anything crazier than this, and I've done a lot of crazy things. But we did this, and the platform was not well known at the time. And so we did 8 episodes. We did 8 weeks straight. Mm-hmm. It was a huge thing. But then the platform went away right after that. And the show didn't get a lot of promotion, but the rights reverted to us a year later. And we said, you know what? We were rolling on, 10 different cameras at any given, moment during the show. So while it was being broadcast live, we were still recording footage. So we said, you know what? Not enough people got to see this. We think, let's cut together the best version of each episode. And if we watch it and it was all about the gimmick, we'll just let it go to bed. But if we watch it and we're like, you know what, it's still a good show that we should try to get out there, we will remaster it and put it out there. Wow. And we watched it, and it's great on its own. And so we found a partner in Dust, Gunpowder and Sky's sci-fi platform. And all 8 episodes of Orbital Redux are on Dust, which either is an app that's probably on your smart TV that you haven't fired yet, or you can go to their Facebook page, their YouTube page, their website, which is watchdust.tv, and look up Orbital Redux. You can watch all 8 episodes. And while they're not live, just remind yourself as you're watching the show that when we were doing it, it was all live.
And is it with being able to edit all the different camera angles and take a look at a different thing if you want to, is it a different experience now that it's more not live and you get a chance to edit and look at things, or is it pretty much the same flavor?
It's pretty much the same flavor. Interestingly enough, they did such a great job editing, live editing on the fly that it was pretty tight as is. We cleaned up a couple things here and there, a couple, sound glitches, and sometimes when, one camera would catch another cameraman as they were cutting back and forth or trading. I mean, we built this spaceship set that was all practical and built from like old submarine parts and weird, like, Russian aeronautics parts that the director got on eBay from probably some disgruntled, Soviet cosmonaut who was just selling shit, on eBay that he probably should not have been doing. So sometimes you would get, we had a lot of the screens on the ship were actually camera doors as well. So while they were functioning screens where things were constantly coming up, a camera guy could swing it open, shoot, and then when they were going to the reverse, he would just close it.
Holy cow.
And then all of a sudden you just see the screen there as it cut to the camera from the other side. It was really a dance. It was this amazing dance. And I'm just excited for everybody who didn't know about the platform at the time, which was most people, to finally get a chance to see the show.
Let me paste the link for that into the different streaming channels we're doing right now.
Thank
and then
you.
We're going to get down to business.
Yeah, monsters.
Oh gosh, it's just and what a monster this one is. So of course, we're talking about the Winged Devourer from the 1982 cult classic Beastmaster. There's a lot of cool stuff in this movie. Tons of monsters, tons of neat things. Yep. But we're going to talk about a creature that wraps you up with its fleshy wings, barfs on you, and then slurps up your melted flesh. Why did you pick the Winged Devourers? When you could pick any monster in the world, why the Winged Devourers?
I gotta say, this was picking a monster to talk about was tough. I went all over sort of literature and film, and I love, monster movies and monster books and, horror fiction so much that it was really hard. And I had to just sort of pick one and assume that, Scott, we would have so much fun that you'd say, Yuri, you should come back with another monster. So we'd get to go to that. And I tried to stay away from some of the big ones because I thought, sure enough, people, would do Creature from the Black Lagoon or, certain things. And I was like, what monster from film like scarred me and stood, stayed with me as a child? And, I watched, they used to say HBO stood for, hey, Beastmaster is on. Because when I was watching HBO as a kid, Beastmaster was on all the time. And it sort of comes at you like here's swords and sandals, sort of slightly, fantasy, movie. And then because of the director, Don Coscarelli, every 5 minutes or so, he throws something super weird at you, whether it's, the witches, the seers in this one who are, unspeakably horrific as well. Or these weird bat creatures that almost seem like they should be in another movie. They're just so weird. I mean, you described them really well, I think. And there's a monster quality to them. There's a religious quality to them. There's at first maybe they're evil, but then they become heroes. Like for a monster that is really not the focus of the movie, they hold a lot of headspace for me still many years later.
And you feel like they steal the show, but for a movie that did not have like a Star Wars-esque resonant effect on culture, there's so many things in this movie that steal the show. Everything from ferrets to painted tigers to the crazy non-aerodynamic boomerang knife. It's just this, and Mark Singer just getting jacked for this, just jacked up. It's incredible.
Oh, the best. And if you, and I will plug, I think Vinegar Syndrome put out a disc recently. I'll go grab it, as a matter of fact, and hold it up. But I should have put, clearly not prepared enough for this, or I've had too much of this bourbon. But it's got a great booklet. It's got great behind the scenes stuff. It's got great interviews. I watched it recently, and it had been, many years since I had seen it. And the movie is just nuts. And the story about the making of the movie is equally nuts.
It should be nuts.
And
it's got to be.
Yeah, it was after Don Coscarelli did Phantasm, and just, I mean, there's so many stories.
And this movie starred Mark Singer, and he was also big in an 80s show some of you may know from back in the day called V, which was huge.
Yep.
And Tanya Roberts, who was a Bond girl and one of Charlie's Angels.
And a bombshell of the time. I remember having a Tanya Roberts poster on my wall.
Yes, just a gorgeous human being at the time. And this movie cost $5 million to make. Adjusted for inflation, it's a $14 million film. So it's a, high end of low budget monster movie. Box office did $10.7 million. You adjust that for inflation, $30.1 million. It made twice the production budget. It is a success, but most of that success came when it was on VHS and kept rolling through HBO. But what I want to ask you is, what is it about this monster? You know what? Let's hold on one second. We have people in the chat room who maybe have never seen The Winged Devourer, or are thinking to themselves, It wasn't that scary. It wasn't that scary. We've got a tiny screen up. We're going to try and defeat the YouTube copyright by going in little bits and pieces here. Watch out for a volume spike. And watching the bottom of the screen, this gentleman Mark Singer just let this gentleman out of a cage. And here he goes. Batwing Central. This is about to get nasty. I just have to pause it a couple times. Barf on the guy. So the wings basically become a stomach. And now is barfing on top of him. Or it's just a really overly affectionate hug. One of the two. Here we go. Oh, gross. Little Brundlefly action going on right here. So nasty. Good shot of the face trying to escape. And then, nothing but bones. And Mark Singer is not pleased with what he just watched. So that is how the Winged Devourer do. He just dissolves all of that stuff. So,
here's the. Let's see if I can get it in focus because my camera wants to.
I can see that. There you go, focusing well.
Yeah, it's the Vinegar Syndrome Beastmaster release that they just did. I also don't get money when they sell one of these, but it's glorious.
What is it about the monster? You said it affected you way back when. What is it about the monster that's scary? Is there one specific thing, or is it a collection of items with this creature?
I think it's a collection of items in many ways, or in a lot. Remember when you're watching The Shining, and you we're at the Overlook, and you're at the end, and he's running through the hotel, and he opens the door, and there's a guy in a furry animal suit, basically going down on another, and it's so. In the moment, it's so incongruous that not only is it weird, it becomes terrifying because your brain doesn't know what to do with that information. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what happened to me when I was watching this as a kid. I had, at the time, I must have seen Phantasm by then, but which has its own. We could go into the weirdness of Phantasm in a whole other show. But I think I was expecting like a Conan the Barbarian type movie, and then. And we might have, a dragon type creature or a giant snake or something like that. And then you get this giant sort of weird bat creature. It's got this weird face and the wings and the dissolve. Like, it just doesn't seem like it belongs. Mm-hmm. And it's so weird and rubbery and, something that, the kind of horror that, Don Coscarelli does really well. But I think it was the incongruity of it that really made it stick with me. I'm like, and to this day those creatures haunt me in the best possible way.
There's so many elements to it. There's the claustrophobia of it. There is the weakness at being bound up by a more powerful creature than you, because that guy's fighting and all the guys fight, but you don't have much time to fight. It's very like boa constrictor meets spider fly regurgitating on top of you, and you just can't move, and you dissolve from the outside in. Yeah. And it's really horrifying.
Also that they're introduced sort of as as an antagonist, as a villain, certainly not the main villain of the movie or anything. Rip Torn is our own monster for that, but then sort of sweeps in at the end as a hero, and they save the day. And again, the incongruity of that, like I didn't know what to do with that.
Right.
So it just kept. It was weird opposites, slamming up against each other. Which is some of the delight of Beastmaster is, of course, Mark Singer got all swole and jacked for this movie, oiled himself up, went to work. Good job, man. Yeah, right.
He is able to communicate with the animals, but as the beast or the beasts, but he doesn't control the beasts. And then each of the beasts brings something in. There's secondary beast, tertiary beast connection. It is his eagle that is the reason that the Winged Devourers wind up helping Mark Singer. It's not Mark Singer himself. It's the eagle doing the work. And that's kind of fun.
Exactly. And they imply that somehow these creatures are related to eagles. Like they're also, like a winged, like they're all friends. And yet another thing that I'm like, what are they talking? What does that mean? Yeah.
So let's, I found this on Tor.com. This is a monster that's been covered a few times on a column on Tor.com. This is no longer there, oddly called Monster of the Week. But the Winged Devourers use their wings to capture and hold human prey. Once secured, they vomit a corrosive solvent over the squirming meal's head. This is a form of external digestion, which you've also seen in spiders. the common housefly, or the extremely rare brundlefly, which we'll be talking about in a couple weeks. Once regurgitated, the caustic upchuck sinks in for a few moments, liquefying flesh right off the bone. Then the monster sucks most of the grotesque soup back into its gullet for a tasty meal. As Brundlefly would say, okay, that's disgusting. Clearly, this creature, and also there's a little bit of biology to this that actually kind of works. If you look at the monster, it doesn't have a mouth, it doesn't have a jaw. So apparently, although there's a person playing it, it can't chew. And this is the key. Since it lacks the basic tools of mastication, it has to break down flesh into a liquid and consume it. After sucking up as much of the flesh as possible, the creature simply throws open its wings and lets the slimy remnants of bone and armor plop to the ground. You're a science-minded guy. What are your thoughts on this?
That's just science, Scott.
Basically, you got a foldable stomach. You give somebody a big hug. You barf on them a little bit.
Right.
Suck it all up. They will drink your milkshake, and that's that.
Yep. Let everything that doesn't fit in whatever gullet that is, like I think they mentioned that in what you just said. Like there's no evident mouth anywhere. It's all movie magic.
And that it's almost like they had for all the craziness in this, they did have some kind of scientific element to deciding how they were going to do this thing. And then this thing. Spider, fly, half human, whatever it is, and then they come back and they're heroes at the end. When they're heroes at the end and they're helping and saving the day, was that also scary to you watching this the first time? Or at this point, you're like, yes, those things are back?
I think I was surprised by how I was immediately behind. How I was horrified earlier in the movie. And then they come in at the end. I was not expecting them to come save the day. And then how I was immediately on their side when they, began liquefying barbarians. Or the Jun Horde. I think it's the Jun Horde.
The Jun Horde. That's
the Jun Horde. Yeah. So again, there are many dualities in this. It's not a simple thing. This Winged Devourer.
It's not. There's a lot going on in it.
There's honor. And I don't know what it is.
They honor their eagle brethren. You wonder why this one, for all the things that have been remade, when they're going to possibly remake this one with a big old budget, it'd be super fun.
Nuts.
Yeah,
I would love for them to give it back to Don Coscarelli. Like, just give him $100 million this time and see what happens.
Go nuts.
Yeah.
As we start to phase out this story, I got to talk about the voice-over voice actor, a book that Yuri and Yuri's wife Platt wrote. That this was a big book for me, you guys, when I was starting out narrating my own audiobooks and doing work. And I just want to talk for a minute about this. Anybody with an interest in voiceover work or narration work, you guys wrote this book. Is this 10 years ago, maybe more?
We wrote the original book 10 years ago. And then we recently did an updated version because things have changed in 10 years. And we had more that we wanted to say and, things we wanted to amend. And we had more experience. And so we did an extended, it's called Voice Over Voice Actor, the extended edition. And it's got a lot of stuff. We added a whole new segment on motion capture in video games.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, because that wasn't something that when we first started out, we were doing, or they were doing as much at the time. And now it seems like it's happening a lot. And we've got a lot more experience doing that. We did that on Spider-Man. I think that's one of the reasons you get some of the performances you do is because rather than just everybody recording their parts separately in a voiceover booth and trying to imagine the other actors, it was like we were doing a play or shooting a movie. All the actors were there and we were acting off each other. And that I think you can get a great performance solo, but I think you get a richer, better performance inevitably when you have two actors facing
off. Sure.
Yeah.
Now, for the gamers in the audience, is the Spider-Man, the most recent Spider-Man game, is that the one people check out? Because now that they've seen your face, they can hear your voice in their head.
I think so. Yeah. And this is my Spider-Man voice. People are like, do the Spider-Man voice. I'm like, I'm always dude. I don't do anything different from my, Peter Parker voice. So, yeah. So I think it's a great place to go, a great place to start. And if you don't play games, you can watch the cinematics on YouTube. It's like people have strung them together. So it's like watching an extra cool Spider-Man movie. Yeah.
So cool. Now, last question for you. And then I know you're very busy to let you get on your way. As a child of the 80s, there's He-Man, and He-Man is just this pinnacle of the stuff we would race home from school to watch any chance we could get. You now get to be the voice of He-Man in the reboot.
I know.
What does that feel like to you?
It felt like a great weight but like I remember, I think the first time that because two He-Mans came out recently, both on Netflix. One of them was the Kevin Smith one that was sort of, it took the, a very like, this is the way it used to look. This is what, this is the He-Man that we all remember. And then ours, which is a reboot for sort of a new generation of kids. But I have found that people, that adults or, fans of the old He-Man are enjoying it too. I was worried that, well, it'd be for the new generation, but, the older generation would hate it. But I have found that not to be the case. But it was tough. It's tough stepping into the shoes of a Spider-Man or a He-Man.
Sure.
Because there's so much lore, and especially for me, a nerd from the 80s and the 70s and the 90s. I'm still a nerd. I'm not, I mean, that hasn't changed. But to take on an iconic, nerdy role like that is scary for me. But yeah, I think the first time I had to in the booth with the rest of the cast standing around me say, "I have the power," to call that. I mean, I still get chills when I say it because it's weird to be invoking it. But I think it took me a couple of times to get through it without my voice cracking and just being weird about it, because it felt like there's an aura
to it. There's that is such a legendary piece of our culture and our youth and our childhood, etc., and has just been replicated so much, and then you get to step into that titular role for that.
Crazy.
Must have been. How long did it take you before you relaxed into the role a little bit? Like, okay, I got this. I know how to do this. Is what I do for a living. I know this.
Yeah, I think let's just say it didn't happen in the first episode that I had to do it. I think it took till the next episode, and we may have even picked up some things once I got comfortable with it. It all felt like it almost all felt like too much. It was It was weird. I mean, I loved it. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't scared. Like, I hated it. I think it was because it meant too much to me somehow.
Yeah. And fortunately, you already had the pedigree of major Spider-Man, Prince of Persia, major roles. But I just think that's got to be very overwhelming. Before we go, do you have, out of your catalog of work at this point, do you have your favorite voice-only role and then your favorite general acting role? And they can be the same thing, but do you have a favorite?
That's like picking your favorite kid, or like, Scott, what's your favorite book you wrote? I mean, Spider-Man would have to be up there, as a kid who grew up reading comics, and to get to work on this Spider-Man that is just so well written and so well realized. And I know we pitched it at the top, but I guess if I had to pick two, Orbital Redux is the highest tightrope I've ever walked professionally, and I put so much into it, and I'm just so proud of the show, as a fan of sci-fi especially. So that's got to be one of the greatest things. It's two other things. I was on the Terminator show, Terminator: The Sarah Connor Chronicles, for a couple of episodes, and that was also just a high point for me because, again, I'm a movie buff and a sci-fi buff, and that was great. And then the last play that I did, or the last couple of plays that I did before my son was born, and then I couldn't really commit to 6-week runs of theater anymore. I got to do a play with Stuart Gordon, directed by Stuart Gordon, who directed Reanimator, among other films.
Sweet.
That was a joy. And then I did a play called Something Truly Monstrous. And we'll end on that because this is a show about monsters, where I actually got to play Humphrey Bogart. It's doing this sort of, the play is based on this apocryphal story where Peter Lorre and Humphrey Bogart go and steal the body of the freshly dead body of John Barrymore, as sort of a lark, which is an oft-told story, and nobody knows whether it's true or not. But people who knew those two guys who were friends say, yeah, that could very well have happened. So
grave robbing as a lark is an awesome idea.
Exactly. Yeah. So see, I was like, here's the one, and then I had to go into like 4. It's hard, man.
Cool. I know you got a lot of work to do and things going on, but thank you so much for being on the show. As soon as you get things squared away, for season 2, we absolutely want to have you back. Pick out
would-
another monster or
would
4,
love
because
to.
who knows what'll be gone by then.
Yeah.
And go and do your thing, and I will boot you off the Zoom. Thank you very much. It's always great
Thanks,
to see
Scott.
your face.
So good. So good. I'm just glad we got a chance to hang out. I do it for that alone.
I totally miss you guys. I can't wait till cons start up again and get
Yes,
to see you
please.
guys and get to hang out. It'll be awesome.
Yes.
Love you, man.
All right.
Bye.
All right. Love you. Bye.
All right, and go back to Maine. Hello, everyone. That was super fun, as you can tell by the shine on my face. Yuri and Tara are just two of my favorite people, and I love them to death. And we'll get him back on. Hopefully, I think he may have a shtick on the show. His shtick is, let's find an obscure monster that as soon as everyone hears it, you're like, oh, I love that monster, and we will do that thing. Before we vacate the premises, ladies and gentlemen, let us go through what is coming up in the upcoming weeks. On December 3rd, which is also Friday, author Mallory O'Meara, really becoming a big-time force in the world of nonfiction, entertainment, culture-related writing. And both of her books are nonfiction. Her new book is called Girly Drinks. We're going to have her on to talk about that. And of course, she wrote the book, literally wrote the book on the creature from the Black Lagoon. You guys are going to love this. She's a fascinating guest. We're going to have a great time with that. On December 10th, one of my podcasting idols, the half of the team behind This Week in Science, Dr. Kiki Sanford, hardcore scientist, going to be talking about Brundlefly, and we're going to get probably a little more in depth on, teleportation, melding of cells, combining DNA. I'm sure it's going to be an absolutely fascinating example of kind of looking at, okay, this happened in the movie. How could this be an actual real thing that we can make happen? I think people are absolutely, you guys are going to love it. It's going to be great. I can't wait. And then the 17th, a up-and-coming, hot young author, J.D. Netto, one of the hardest working people in show business right now, an author who is absolutely an entrepreneur and trying to find all the different angles that he can to get his work out to people. He reminds me a lot of me 15 years ago when I just discovered podcasting. I think you're going to love this guy. He is a lovely human being. He's got a lot of talent, and he's going to talk to us about our Christmas special episode. Which, of course, is Krampus. We have to do a Christmas special episode of The Monster. It's going to bring the whole family to talk about Krampus. It is going to be a great time. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy holidays to all of you. I hope you had a great week. I hope you have a great weekend. If you have to work this weekend, I hope you actually enjoy what you do. We will be back next week with Mallory O'Meara. And until then, you guys keep on monstering. And I will now sign off.